Let me ask you a question. Do you ever feel stressed about what you're gonna wear? I mean, you want the drip to be strong, you want the fit to be tough, but you're just not sure that it is. Sometimes it looks amazing, and sometimes you're just not so sure. Here's another question. Do you ever feel stressed about how your hair looks? Me, literally, all the time. I'm stressed about how it looks right now. I can't even see a mirror. I don't know what's going on. And some of you would say yes to that question. How many of you have never felt stress over how your hair looks one single day of your life? You are incredibly lucky people. Sometimes the simplest stuff can cause us the greatest stress. It reminds me of me back in high school. I mean, I've been there. I was stressed about so many normal things. I was worried about my clothes being outdated, which they always were, but shout out to hand-me-downs. Another thing I was worried about was not knowing a trending artist and being terrified of dancing in public. Y'all, I wanted to be the guy in the center of the dance circle so bad, but I knew that just wasn't me. I thought if I could imitate certain people, you know, their style, their mannerisms or interests, I'd feel better about myself. But the harder I tried to be someone else, the more miserable I became. Can you relate? Maybe what you're carrying looks different than what I did, but I think we've all felt the weight of trying to be someone we're not, of striving to meet impossible standards, of feeling like we'll never measure up. So, there's my question. Is this really how life is supposed to be? Is it meant to be this heavy all the time, or is there another way? In a recent LeBron James interview, he was asked if he gets nervous taking last-minute shots. He said, "Not anymore. I'm him." That's my LeBron voice, so it was terrible. But if you're a LeBron fan, that response fires you up. And if you're a LeBron hater, you wanna cringe so hard at that. And I get it. It's fun to say to our friends, are any of us really him or her? A sports site said, you know you're him when you have confidence, which causes others to cower in fear. But in part one of Take a Bow, we challenge the assumption that we need to tear others down to feel like we're okay ourselves. There's a humble confidence that comes from a different place, and it's a much lighter burden to carry than trying to be him or her. What if you didn't have to be him or her? What if you can't be? What if you were just meant to be you? A lot of us carry around two different kinds of burdens. The first is the burden of pride. This is when we're constantly trying to prove our worth, and pride is a heavy weight to carry. Think about it. You're always comparing yourself to others, trying to outdo them. You're exhausted from putting on a show, from pretending to be perfect. You're stressed about maintaining your image and your reputation. You feel like you can never let your guard down, never be vulnerable. It's a lot of pressure, isn't it? For example, did you know that a like on a social media post can make you feel bad about yourself? No, seriously. Did you know that sometimes when we post something online and people respond positively, it can make us more, not less, more anxious? When we present an edited version of ourselves online that doesn't match how we truly feel, positive responses to that inauthentic image can increase our anxiety. We assume people wouldn't like the real us, so their approval of our curated persona makes us feel more insecure, not less. It's the type of post where what we put out for the world to see isn't who we believe ourselves to be. This all happens a bit subconsciously, yet still, it gets heavy. And we don't just project our digital selves, we do this in real life too. It's hard to feel like you're not measuring up. It's harder trying to be someone you weren't made to be, which is really trying to be anyone but you. It's exhausting, trying to be the best, trying to be someone you're not. And the crazy thing is, there will always be someone smarter, prettier, or more talented. It's an unwinnable chase. Then there's the other burden, and in some ways, it's even heavier. It's the burden of feeling like you'll never be good enough. And when you carry this kind of burden, it's easy to want to just shrink back, to make yourself small. You don't want to take any risks or put yourself out there because you're afraid of failing or looking stupid or confirming what you secretly fear, that you're just not enough. It's kind of like this. You're lugging a heavy backpack everywhere. School, practice, hanging out with friends. This form of working out is called rucking. It's building endurance by carrying a weighted pack long distances. But when you're rucking, you're not just carrying the pack, you're carrying your gear, your supplies, your burdens. It's a heavy load, and over time, it wears you down. Your body starts to ache and your whole vibe feels crushed. That's what carrying the weight of pride and insecurity feels like. It's exhausting and painful, and the longer you carry it, the heavier it gets. But what if you could just put the pack down? What if there is a way to find rest and relief? There's good news. You were made for more than walking around weighted down by pride or insecurity. So what do? How do we learn to be confident in who we are without constantly feeling the need to prove ourselves? Is there a way to put down the weight of these things and find rest? You know, it's amazing to me how Jesus always seemed to zero in on the things that matter most. The weights we all carry, the questions that keep us up at night, Jesus spoke directly to those places. Listen to what he said in Matthew 11:28-29. Come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens. In other words, he knows that life is difficult. He knows that we all have struggles, fears, and insecurities, and he doesn't shame us for that. Instead, he invites us to come to him, to bring our burdens to him, and it comes with a promise, and I will give you rest. Isn't that what we want? Rest from the constant striving, performing, and proving. Jesus offers us a different way to live that isn't so heavy. But how do we find that rest? Jesus told us, take my yoke upon you. Let me teach you. In other words, walk with me, learn from me, do life my way. And then he dropped the bombshell. He said, because I am humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls. We spend so much of our life energy and brain space struggling to prove ourselves or shutting down because we think we're not worthy. But Jesus doesn't want us to carry those burdens, that rucksack. Jesus says the key to finding rest for our souls is to come to him. What does going to Jesus look like? It's not about our usual approaches of making ourselves small or putting ourselves down. It's about remembering what he says about us. It's about stepping into his true view of who we are and resting there. It's about setting down that weight and choosing to stand in the truth that we are so precious to him. Coming to Jesus is about understanding that your worth doesn't come from what you do or what others think of you. It comes from the God who made you. It comes from his opinion of you, and you are incredibly valuable to Jesus. When you know this truth, you can rest in him. Remember this, when you follow Jesus, you can find real rest. You have a unique role to play, a space in this world that only you can fill. You don't have to strive so much anymore. You don't have to prove your worth or earn your place. You can rest in the knowledge that you are loved and valuable, and you have a part to play in God's story because God created you for this specific time and place. So how do we live this out? How do we embrace humility and find rest in a world that always tells us to hustle, to compete and perform? As Jesus said, if we come to him, we'll find the rest we need. So let's practice that. I want to give you a chance to symbolically release the heavy burdens you've been carrying. Now, I promise, it won't be weird. Let me ask you to close your eyes and imagine you're carrying a backpack, a heavy backpack. Picture all the weights you've been shouldering, the pressure to perform, the fear of not measuring up, the exhaustion of trying to be someone you're not. Now, I want you to imagine setting that backpack down, just letting it go. And as you do, silently pray, Lord, look at this heavy backpack I've been carrying. I've been struggling and striving. You've seen it, but I don't want to carry these heavy burdens anymore. I don't want to strive and perform and pretend. Please help me embrace who you say I am. Please help my heart remember what you say about me is true. As you continue with your eyes closed, I want you to imagine picking up a new backpack, but this one is light, so it's easy to carry. Imagine you're opening the backpack. Take a look inside. Inside, you see a simple note that says, "You are loved. You are enough. You have purpose. I made you, and I love being with you as you live your life." Carry that truth with you this week. And whenever you feel the weight of those old burdens trying to sneak back in, remember that you can always pray and ask God to help you set them down again. You are free to be who God made you to be. Y'all can open your eyes. I know it's not always easy to believe what God says is true about you. And trust me, I struggle with it too. But here's the thing. Our worth doesn't come from what we do or what others think of us. It comes from the God who made us. When we start to live from that place, embrace our God-given identity and space in the world, and step fully into our God-given space, we find freedom. Jesus will help us do that. So follow Jesus. Let his way be your way. And that's when we find rest for our souls. So may you have the courage this week to let God define who you are so that you can be who you were made to be. May you find rest and peace as you walk humbly with your God. Remember, this week, when you follow Jesus, you find real rest. When you head to groups, think about your response to this question. What is one thing that is really heavy for you to carry right now?